Hi, I'm Jeff Foxworthy, and welcome to Gamekeeper Podcast. If you want to learn more about farming for wildlife and habitat management, then, buddy, you are in the right place. Join the Gamekeeper crew direct from Mossy Land Enhancement Studio as they discuss the latest wildlife and habitat management practices, news, and, of course, hunting. There's no telling what you'll learn, but I'm going to tell you, I bet it's interesting. Enjoy.
We're live in 3, 2, 1.
Oh, Lord. We are getting fancy up in here. Well, welcome everybody to the Mossy Oak Land Enhancement Gamekeeper Studios.
Here we are.
Yet again, another podcast.
I love the little glass house that Jason is sitting in his little producer studio out there.
Well, in this COVID era, we're trying to be safe.
Yeah, we are. We're going to talk about COVID a little bit today. I know we hadn't talked about it much. I think we're going to talk about it as in relation to ducks a little bit.
Boy, it's really changing our lives.
Yeah.
It really is. So,
and our mental capacity.
I'm about tired of it.
I am too. So, Dudley, being the hypochondriac that you are,
I feel like I've had it at least 4 times. I mean,
have you had any blood work done?
No, but like Lanny was saying a minute ago, you get close to somebody, one guy doesn't bother you, but another guy does. That's what's so weird about it.
It is.
But I mean, you'll get a little tickle in your throat and just think the world's about to end, and then the next day you wake up fine. And
yeah, I'm real hot and cold on it too. That's what I was saying last week. We've been eating out or takeout. We weren't eating out at all. Now we're all taking out. And just stepped in the place to pick up my plate, and then I just knew I was infected when I left. So all weekend I was like, "Oh my God, am I gonna make it?" But and today I'm like, I'm good.
Well, we keep the door here. We've been keeping it locked for probably since
spring.
Yeah. But then sometimes somebody doesn't lock the door and you look up and there's somebody just standing in the hall.
Yeah.
And it just makes you kind of...
Everybody freaks out.
Yeah, it makes you uncomfortable.
I don't know if everybody's like, when is it going to go back to normal? I don't know if it ever will. Even some of the gestures, our Southern handshake and all that stuff is going to be dynamically changed, I believe.
It'll be interesting.
And
I'm not a personal space person. Like I don't get in your face.
Yeah.
But I like, interacting. I like hugging and handshaking and all of that.
High-fiving.
It's just crazy.
So Jason across there in the glass room, he is a kind of a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
I mean,
swole.
He works out.
Swole.
So Jason, are you going to the gym and still working out and all that?
Yeah, I'm still going. I'm taking a little extra precaution to wipe down all the equipment and stuff, putting hand sanitizer on all the time.
Yeah. Well, I would expect with you being the bodybuilder that you can't take off. I mean, you've got to keep working out somehow.
Got to keep going.
Yeah, he would just shrivel up if he didn't.
I remember when Jason was puny. And Austin was puny.
He could run around in a shower to get wet.
Yeah. They started eating that biologic, man. The whole world changed.
My dad used to joke with me, telling me that when it was raining, I could go stand under a clothesline and keep dry.
That's a good. I hadn't heard that one.
Well, it sure changed a whole lot of things around the world. I know we don't want to be selfish and talk about how COVID has affected waterfowling, but we're going to talk about waterfowling today.
So, well, they say that it really impacted turkeys.
Yeah.
A lot of turkeys.
Yeah, wildlife in general.
Were pressured. And then you expect that this year with deer season, there's probably going to be more deer killed.
Yeah, and we're hearing, I haven't got any official stats, that, hunting license sales are up double digits in all states, spring, fall, and everything.
Oh, yeah. I mean, my family vacation was canceled, and you can bet your boots I'm going to be deer hunting every day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And probably tied into the whole food thing, where's your stuff coming from, eating more at the house, kind of things driving that too. So,
it's different.
Specifically on waterfowl, Canada didn't allow any out of country hunters in?
That's my understanding. So there were a lot of guys that normally travel to Canada the 1st of September and shoot birds that were looking for alternatives. And I think they may have gone, well, like Bandy Collins, he said he had more people wanting to go on some of his dove shoots than ever before, and it was a result of that.
So do you think this could be a better duck season for us because of not as
Lack
much
of
hunting in
pressure.
Canada.
Lack of pressure.
Just throwing it out there. You know, I'm the continual optimist waterfowler. Every year is going to be, you know, just a phenomenal year. So,
Well, there's so much pressure between that,
yeah, I'd like to be right over the line.
Minnesota,
Yeah.
Illinois, Missouri, Arkansas, Tennessee, before they get to us. That I can't see. In my mind, it won't change anything.
Well, you know, we're down here at the bottom of the barrel. So,
Yeah. I mean, by the time they get here, they are spooky.
They've seen so many spinning wing decoys
Right.
and heard so many hail calls and seen shiny faces that, I think it's going to be a wash.
do you? Well, I'm hoping, you know, it's colder than it has been. We got a little water. Maybe they're not, you know, I don't know. Like I said, I'm the continual optimist from waterfowler's perspective.
Well, no, I'm with you. I would like to think that too.
Well, we're going to get a couple of reports today, aren't we? What's going on north of us?
Right. So we're going to call Chris Paradise, and he's going to tell us what's going on up in that Ohio region.
Yeah, it's a waterfowler destination up there.
Yeah, and he's as big a waterfowl hunter as I guess
I
we
know.
know.
Yeah.
I mean, he's
Yeah.
really into. He's into the heritage of the waterfowl hunting.
Right. I think he's a member of one of the oldest duck clubs up there too. So
It's a neat area.
he is a waterfowler.
Yeah,
There's
he
no
is.
question about
Tried
it.
and true. And then later we'll also we're going to call Spence Halford with
Our buddy.
Rolling Thunder Game Calls
Oh, Spence.
and see what he's hunting in Arkansas mostly, I think. So
Yeah.
we'll get it kind of
He
more
travels
local.
a lot too and has a huge network of duck hunting buddies.
You know what?
So
That boy likes to duck hunt now.
Yeah, and he likes some bottomland.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, that's one thing about the waterfowlers. They just love bottomland.
Oh man, I mean, it is duck hunting.
It is.
It really is. Especially
That kind of makes you feel good. I love to scroll through Instagram and you'll see all these serious waterfowl hunters leaning up against trees and wearing bottomland and
that I think even more than the turkey hunters, those are the ones that hung on to it from the get go.
Mm-hmm.
Even when the new patterns were coming out, bottomland is just so phenomenal for hunting in the bottom.
We used to have pictures at my duck camp in Money, Mississippi. Of course, it burned down, but in the sometime in the 90s, we took our boats out with our Avery blinds. They were just coming out on the market, and we would hang. They had that really lightweight camo netting that was made out of that synthetic material, and we'd hang it up in the trees and around it. And we took photos of it. Like we took different camo patterns out and took photos
to see which one worked the best.
Yes, and the bottomland was by far
that's
the way to go.
No surprise there.
No surprise. That's right.
I like how he said we had a camp in Money, Mississippi, and of course it burned down.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking the same thing. Isn't this two camps that have burned?
Well, my luck with tornadoes and fires and everything else. But yeah, fire got it. We rebuilt.
A lot of hunting camps
But
have burned.
Lost a lot of memories and photos and our log book.
Oh man, a lot of nostalgic stuff.
Yeah. One guy went back and dug through the ashes. He knew where his bed was upstairs and got directly under it and found all of his bands
Wow.
because he hung his duck call on a bedpost.
I take my bands to the house.
And somehow he got lucky and it fell and that aluminum didn't melt.
Yeah, it didn't melt.
How about that?
Mm.
Yeah. So.
Band of ducks. Look, you got a band right there.
Yeah, well, later on the Did You Know, it has to do with the band. So.
I've heard of a couple bands getting killed already this year. Who was it?
Well, Chris Paradise's son, I think, killed one.
Mm-hmm.
It's the only one I'm aware of.
Yeah. Oh, and then Nick Strahan, our buddy in the Delta, killed one too.
Did he really? Where
Yeah.
Where did he kill it?
I think it was a wood duck.
I'll be.
Issaquah County.
I don't know.
You know where Issaquah County? Issaquah County is? I know Dudley does.
Isn't it in the Delta?
Yeah, that's right.
So look, this week's sponsor. Yeah, I want to tell you about Baronet Blinds.
Is that 5-sided blind?
Yeah, it's a 5-sided blind.
Man, they've been bragging on that thing.
In the old Mossy oak tree stand, the original tree stand. But 5-sided means this thing's got enough room for, you could have Hayden, your dad,
everybody
Logan,
up in there. We wouldn't
even
see
Shannon.
anything.
It's huge. And it's in the original tree stand pattern. And so it's called the Gamekeeper Memory Maker. So if you'll go, and let me spell Baronet. It's BARRONETT blinds.com. and then you can search for the Gamekeeper Gamekeeper blind. It is really, really nice, and I would encourage everybody to go take a look at it. There's a guy there named Travis, and he worked so hard to help put this thing together for us, and it is a fantastic hunting blind.
Cool. Well, I know we're going to use it. They used it last week when we had the Barbecue Riot guys and the Barbecue Ninja in town.
Did he kill a deer?
Yeah, they ended up killing some deer. Sure did. They had a really good time. We got a lot of good recipes in the can, so we're looking forward to pushing out some new food content with those guys pretty soon.
Yeah, that sounds fun. So y'all go check out this the Gamekeeper blind at baronetblinds.com. They're real. The quality is
the Gamekeeper Memory Maker.
That's it. That is it.
It is 5-sided and 5-star.
That's right.
Hey, there you go. All right. There you go, Baronet. You can use that.
Let's let Lanny start writing all of our little.
Might need a gig in marketing one day.
Yeah. So also this week, everybody can look forward to the winter issue is in the mail coming to them.
Awesome.
And it's a great one. We've got a tribute to Charlie Alsheimer. You remember Charlie?
Yeah, what a great
away
guy.
A few years ago.
Man, one of the most phenomenal wildlife photographers there was, for sure.
He really was.
Probably most published whitetail guy have to be.
I think so, because he was really into the magazine Deer and Deer Hunting.
Yeah.
And when they were in their heyday, he had
cranking them out.
He really was. The great guy. I do miss him because we used to talk all that. He's probably had more covers with our magazine than anybody else.
No doubt about it.
So it will be on the shelves at Tractor Supply, Bass Pro, Cabela's, Walmart.
All right, go pick it up. We'll probably maybe hook up with Todd next week, talk about what's in it, what's going on.
Yeah, and so if you don't subscribe, which will be and I think Jason McKellar's got a program going right now where you can subscribe for half price.
Come on.
I think he does.
Shoot.
I'm not sure where you find that.
I think I'll subscribe myself.
But that's a really good deal.
Yeah. And we are working on a new website, y'all. So give us a little bit.
Always working on something. Yep. What about blood on the biologic, Dudley? Are you aware of anybody's killing any big deer this week?
The one that really struck me, I love watching those videos they post, but Kyle Karcher with the Lindsay Way killed a brute of, I love 6 points.
Oh yeah, I love 6 points too.
That thing was a toad, and it was like a blizzard going on in Kansas, and just a ton of deer. And they kept having to wipe the lens off with, they had their hunting gloves on. It was cold, and anyway, it's just a cool story.
In the snow,
It really was
brutal snow.
If you get a chance, you can find that on their Instagram or Facebook page for sure. I watched it.
It's just something so cool about hunting in the snow. I know, like those guys are like, it's snowing, but I mean, for us, it's like
it wasn't just snowing; it was a blizzard. It was a whiteout.
Getting it.
Yeah, that's definitely a bucket list for me as a Mississippi snow buck.
Yeah, we tried when it was like spitting the other day. But that wasn't really snow.
I don't know. That was snow. I mean, you had to there's one.
Well, I mean, that's snow in Mississippi, buddy.
People were buying milk and bread, I'm sure.
I'm still stocked up.
So with all the ducks that are being killed of late, a lot of our dogs are getting some work.
Yeah.
And I got a text and a photograph from about Bogey. Remember we talked about
Bogey?
Bogey?
How's Bogey doing over there?
So he went on his first duck hunt in Arkansas, and I think over the 3-day, it picked up about 60 ducks. And
look
Larry
at him.
Burns
I bet he's one proud papa.
He was.
He over there beaming.
Yeah.
I can't believe he came through Mississippi and didn't even talk.
No, well,
can't call, stop by, nothing.
Well, I wouldn't let him stop.
Okay. The COVID.
He's so. I mean, there's no telling what he's carrying.
Yeah.
If it wasn't COVID, it'd be something.
Yeah,
else.
well, you're right. We don't need him stopping in here. He can drop Bogey off for a little time, though.
Yeah, he said he and Bogey had a lot of fun. Bogey slept with him in the bed, and the whole 9 yards. So.
Oh, that's a great dog story. That's for sure.
It really is. So, does anybody else know of anything big?
I don't. And it seemed like a lot of big deer were hitting the ground in the Delta. What I was seeing last week, and then I don't know. Around here, it feels like the lull before the storm.
It is.
Just here locally.
I'm starting to get a lot of daytime photos on the camera. Younger bucks. We get to sit in the office and work, and then
your phone
dings,
hunting for you. That's right.
Yeah, that Spartan's out there hunting, and Yeah, they're on their feet. Lots of midday photos. So I can't wait to get out this weekend.
So, Jason Cleveland, did you miss another deer this weekend?
Are you? Yeah. What's going on?
No.
Did you shoot your
I
rifle?
didn't get a chance to go, but I'm getting paranoid about my gun.
Yeah, we talked about
have
that
to-
this morning.
You should go shoot it again and make sure it's on. Because I don't miss many deer. So.
Oh, okay.
Hey, and I'm with him. You know, when my confidence, if I'm not confident in my equipment, it's a game changer to me. Hey, I was confident with my equipment and I was shooting at him 7
Yeah,
times.
I mean, you're the guy that shot 7 times at a 800-pound elk, and then was that all the meat you got off the elk
With
the
a
other day?
muzzle
The
loader.
little
With a
bag of-
come on now, with a muzzle loader. That's pretty. I thought that's pretty good. You know, I got 7 shots off. I was only prepared. Yeah, but no, that was the only meat I had left. It was those 2 pieces of beef jerky. You know?
So we ate your whole elk.
Yeah, we ate the whole elk,
last
no.
podcast. Okay.
I forgot to bring some today, but
Well, Jason, if we can help you sight in, we've got a target back there. Jason McKellar has some targets.
yeah, you got to be confident in your equipment. Dudley, you know this. Like when you take your kid and you're like, "What if a deer?"
Yep.
Oh my gosh, is this gun on?
Mm.
You know?
Or if it, I mean, so much can knock a scope off.
Oh yeah,
You're not
especially when it's
careful.
rolling around in my truck all the time.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of keeping your gun in a gun case in the back of your truck.
Yeah.
You know, not just laying it on the back seat
I
where
need-
where Goose and everybody
I need
steps
to do a
on
better
it.
job. Yes.
I've had enough scopes come undone that I just put that Loctite, clean the screws and everything really well. Put
Once you set it, it's
put
set.
that, what is it, the blue bottle thread
Yeah,
locker
you got
on
the
it.
blue and the red.
Yeah, I think the red is more like a cement.
Yeah, the red's never coming
Put
out.
the blue on there, and that really helps. I've had that problem enough that I fixed it.
Yeah.
Got to
All
have
right.
confidence in your equipment.
So look,
So-
keeping this show moving along, we've got Chris Paradise, who's been with Mossy Oak a long time, and he kind of leads. He's head of sales and licensing. I mean, he's got a big title, but more importantly, he is probably the biggest waterfowler that
He's
we
a
know.
rabid waterfowl.
Yeah, from every aspect of it, including the history of it,
Yeah.
and collecting decoys and all that. So he's a fascinating guy to talk to about waterfowl.
No doubt about it. And it's great to talk to him too because of the heritage. You know, we're used to the whole Mississippi, Delta flatland duck stuff, but what they have up there is so cool and unique with the Great Lakes and all the stuff that they've got going on. It's
So without
it's a
any
cool spot.
Without any, I didn't
my
mean to
bad.
introduce
I'm
you. I
sorry.
didn't mean to cut you off, but let's give the blow the horns for Chris.
Here he comes.
I don't know
There
if I
we
can
go.
follow that.
Rabid waterfowler.
Yeah, I'm a rabid waterfowl. I get shots for rabies and everything.
Well, tell us how you doing up there.
Well, I'll tell you. Well, hello to everybody, and yeah, no doubt about it. It is if God said to me, "Hey, you got one last thing you can do with your family, what could you do?" I might vote for a day in the marsh. But
There you go.
it's just one of those things. But yeah, we're way up north. We're up against Lake Erie, the Great Lakes region, and so there is a lot of history, tradition, that's steeped in this region for sure. But like anything, most duck hunters and goose hunters will tell you. And I think that's a great thing about waterfowling in general, on why we're all attracted to it so much, because you guys, I think, are as rabid as any of us.
Yeah.
Is that everybody's got their own tradition or history or affiliation to what is so special about duck hunting or goose hunting. And so up here, you might say that it's maybe a little deeper, only because we have some of the oldest hunting clubs in America up here. And these have been in existence as early as back in 1856 in that era. And they've kept many of those same traditions and principles alive today. And that's what's intrigued me so much about it. And also, as we know, ducks and geese, primarily ducks, imprint real heavy on resource habitat management that allows them to thrive. And I really enjoy that about this region, because up here we do a really good job of that. And our DNR, our local Ohio Department of Natural Resources, do an excellent job of maintaining our refuges, public land access, and all that does, that just wraps up into a ball of good waterfowling for everybody. And so we're fortunate in that regard. So yeah, I can honestly say that it is an honor to live up in this part of the world if you like to duck hunt.
Well, so since a lot of your hunting is right there around Lake Erie, you're getting puddle ducks and diver ducks, I would assume.
We do. We kick off September 1 for teal, and that's roughly a 3-4 week season, depending on the national matrix. But that season is really, really good up here, which most people wouldn't think. But this year alone, I'd say our bag limits consisted primarily of blue-winged teal throughout the season. Our green wings didn't show up till a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
Customarily, that's kind of the way it is. But in this region, we shot a lot of blue wings, and then we start to see a lot of our puddle ducks come in to the area. And then now, probably I would say from November 20th until the end of the season, there's no telling what you'll see in the way of diver ducks, because we have a lot of big water in terms of Lake Erie to shoot on. And also it's just there's a lot of tributaries that those birds will go up into some of these back bays, and they can feed all day long. So we see kind of the whole spectrum of ducks here, which is kind of neat.
Mm-hmm. That would be exciting.
Oh man, I've been up there with him. It is fun.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, it's kind of interesting because there's two avenues that we can go down in terms of waterfowl management. One, we got to be sure that we have food. And that's key for the migration, because these birds are making a long migration. Now, interestingly enough, this year, due to the pandemic with COVID and what's been going on, I do have a theory, and the reason we're holding so many ducks now, and ducks that are working well, ducks that respond to the call, ducks that are not blind, shy, but are really working. And the reason is we can't access Canada. And without being able to access Canada, as a crow flies across the Lake Erie for us, Canada is the next land we hit. And there's a lot of duck clubs up there, a lot of outfitting guide services that are basically unable to entertain the U.S. consumer coming that way because we can't cross the border. So there's less pressure. Canadians in general aren't as rabid as we say about duck hunting. Mm-hmm. There's some hunters up there. But in general, the overall pressure on that resource has been minimal. Now, that does two things. One, they're not as quick to move and get out of the region.
Mm-hmm.
And two, when they do, get out, they're workable birds. And that is just something I've noticed here probably in the last 6-8 weeks is, man, the mallards, even black ducks, pintails are very workable, which is nice.
Black ducks. Wow.
Man.
Yeah.
That is nice for a change for them to, be easier to work with.
Chris, do y'all kill a lot of banded ducks up there?
Historically, yes. The trend in banding has gone down over the past few years based on U.S. Fish and Wildlife data. But interestingly, I was shooting a lot of bands. And then my son came along. And now, out of the last 5 bands we've shot, he shot 4.
That's awesome.
And so those are, and look, bands are, I know a lot of guys that have literally shoe boxes full of bands, and you never know it. But a band is a really neat way for us, while it's also a neat badge that, you've gotten to see something unique, and it's always fun for my son and I to look up on the website and see where that bird was banded, where it was raised, the migration route it took. How did it end up in Sandusky Bay, Ohio, out of the western Dakotas? Well, it just happened that year we had a huge westerly blow, a lot of snow, and those birds, shifted in the migration. So we love that aspect of it as well.
Wow. Well, Chris, let me ask you, staying on that area, where you are is a pretty neat area for a sportsman, but it seems like every year you kind of lock in on a big deer. And I'm just wondering if this year's been any different.
Well, we've been busy. No question about it. And between the kids being home from school with the pandemic, and the amount of workload and what's going on. We all know this, but being virtual from a customer base standpoint, those days of, I would say, having extra time to zero in on a big deer has been difficult. Now, with that said, I've also backed off of that because we've had EHD twice in the past 7 years, and we even have a small case of it this year. And that has affected our deer herd to the point where if we have any mature, larger deer still around, we're looking at their age class. We're trying to let them go another year, or I'm putting my kids in front of those deer. But I was fortunate enough over the weekend, this past weekend, I had a chance to get on a nice deer in Ohio. He happened to show. I shot him about 15 steps. He's a beautiful, wide, 23-inch, heavy-mast 8-point that just one of those deer that, I was lucky that was still around. But outside of that, I'm going to tell you, the deer hunting has been very difficult in our area for the simple fact that DHD has put a hurting on us, for sure.
Wow, it's good to hear about a little blood on the biologic, though.
23 inches.
Yeah, I know we got back straps in the freezer.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Well, I mean, the way I started that, every year you get on a big deer, so this year is no different.
Yeah, he was just trying to put it off a little bit. Hey, I was working on the kids, but I happened to find this giant 23-inch wide.
Yeah.
Things happen.
You're right. Again, this was more, I would say, luck was in my favor than effort, for sure, this year.
Hey, there's a Mr. Fox saying behind that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the truth.
Well,
that is the truth.
So where Chris lives, the turkey hunting is fantastic. The waterfowl hunting, the deer. He's got smallmouth bass, steelhead running the streams.
It's a cool place in the world.
Really
it really is.
It is. Look, I got to tell you.
Except for the snow.
For 10 months out of the year, if you're a sportsman, you can find something to do in the outdoors. And I mean, look, my daughter and I, we go look for crayfish all the way to my son.
What's a crayfish?
You mean a crawfish?
A crawdad.
we can't eat these crayfish. You can eat your crawfish. Up here, we use them for bait, but
that's what you catch smallies with.
You can find something to do in this area. But Bobby, one of the things I do want to say, the duck hunting has been feast or famine for many years. Mm-hmm. And something to kind of point out is we had two major weather events at the right time during our season. We had one mid to late October that forced a bunch of birds in. What was great about that was we have a lot of moist soil units, and birds typically in moist soil units will forage longer into the day. So you see shooting more up into the late morning, and then also again in the early afternoon. We were seeing pintails, widgeon, gadwall, lots of teal, everything, which fills out a bag. And our mallards hadn't arrived. And then if you look to November, we started getting hit with some colder temperatures and this major snowstorm that hit us here recently, and it pushed in a ton of mallards and black ducks. And then, the rest of our puddlers had left, and so we had the perfect storm, no pun intended, twice, to allow us great shooting throughout the year. And here we are in, call it towards the middle of December, and we still have open water. And typically we can be, frozen out by December 1st. So it's been, all the stars have aligned this year. I've gotten out a lot with the family on weekends, making sure we're, able to shoot a number of different holes just to give them some rest. And it's just been fantastic, but we owe it to Mother Nature. She's put us in the right matrix for the year.
Mm. That's cool. You might have mentioned this a little bit. We were talking earlier that we were wondering if the not as many people going hunting in Canada might have bolstered the hunting numbers in the U.S. a little bit.
I would say no question. Now, north of us, there's a club called St. Anne's, and they have some public access to it as well as some interior.
Where is this?
It's really, it's a neat place. They have canvasbacks to mallards, widgeon, gadwall, pintail, spotted teal, It's run on an Indian reservation. They do a tremendous job, and typically it holds a great number of birds. And but without a lot of hunters up in that area. And for instance, a lot of my friends would take a trip 2-3 times a year to go up there, and people come from all over, call it the northern seaboard, up against Lake Erie and go up and shoot in Canada in early September. Well, nobody's doing that. Nobody did it. Mm-hmm. There was no pressure. Now, when these birds moved, though, they were in huge, huge volume. We weren't seeing the trickle effect of a migration. We were seeing big flocks show up, and, one day you'd be out in the bay and you'd see 2,000 mallards, and then the next day there could be, seriously, in one bunch, 10,000, 15,000 birds. And that just grew to where I think right now, harboring in the bay, we're somewhere in that 40,000, 50,000 range.
Oh, my goodness.
I might have to move.
Yeah, and if they stay, but, this week it'll stay in the 50s. Mm-hmm. And then next week we tip the scale back down below freezing, and that'll change things for the remainder of the season.
I mean, this could even affect the hatch.
Oh yeah,
ducks coming into the season less stressed, healthier.
Yeah, and maybe even older, mature ducks.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
So your birds, the birds that y'all are holding right now, where's their next step? What do they start going more toward the eastern flyway?
If you look at the migration routes, you start to see the Y split just south of us. And so, again, the migration has shifted. That's one thing I do is I study this because I like to see just how we're starting to tabulate and show the movement of these birds. And no question, there's two things that happen. One, weather, for some reason, has played not only a major role in the migration, but the shift in that. Because typically, you're going to have a calendar migration regardless. I mean, September and October, you start to see your early first of the year drakes. They're starting to show up. Pintails are coming in. Widgeon are moving. Gadwall are starting to show up. And that's your calendar migration. But the migration itself from let's just call it the Dakotas on east, we see that shift frequently back and forth. And the reason we know that is Kansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, Northeast Texas, they're starting to see more mallards in larger groups than they've seen in years past. And January seasons for them are ideal. So, yeah, I think that migration shifts as soon as it gets below, call it this northern Midwest region, depending on weather, depending on food. Another thing is these birds are smart. We have imprinted flooded cornfields. To give you an idea, we're well over 2,000 acres of flooded corn in this region. Now, that's great. It provides excellent shooting, but that shooting is typically late and early in the day. Whereas moist soil, which is also better for them from an overall management standpoint, we can keep water on it longer. We get them on the spring migration coming back. That water alone that we keep on that food, whether it's, moist soil or not, allows those birds a healthier return back to their breeding grounds, to the point earlier about just the overall health of that bird as they get ready to breed again.
Yeah, that's very important. Mm-hmm. Very important. Well, gosh, we've learned a lot from Chris. Talk about what's going on.
Yeah, we learned we got to get on up there and duck hunt. That's what I've heard.
Yeah, I'll tell you. Hey, listen, and I mean it too. We love sharing it up here. It's been a weird year. We haven't been able to do that.
Right.
But I will say this, that without what we're able to enjoy, and just getting the kids out and taking my son and daughter, my daughter took her, first duck hunt with me this year. It's just something to do, but it's also a learning and getting back to what's important in nature. It has made all the world of difference as we've been under this, pandemic stronghold. So it's been wonderful, and I hope we can get back to enjoying it with guys like you to come up and see what we have.
Well, we hope you get to come down too. I know you usually try to get here during late season. We might have a little more time in January with the trade show cancellation stuff.
January, I'm going to be looking for a vaccine.
Yeah, that's right. Well, good. Get one and come on down.
Yeah. How about that? Well, Chris, we've enjoyed having you on.
Absolutely.
Send those ducks this way when you get finished with them, if you don't mind.
No,
don't teach them too much.
We won't bother them too much.
Yeah, save some for us.
All right. Well, look, you have a great rest of the day. We appreciate you being on here.
Yeah, and congratulations on the big old deer, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'll send some pictures.
Yeah,
Thanks,
send us
guys.
some pictures.
Appreciate
Need to post it on social and show everybody. Brag on you a little bit.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks,
All right,
Chris.
thanks,
See you, buddy.
That was Chris Paradise. He is the head guy in the sales and licensing for the
That's
camo
right.
side of the business. And what a great guy.
Yeah.
I didn't know you're right. He knows so much.
He
Especially
really
is
does.
a duck nerd.
He's
Let me
a-
tell
he's
you right
avid.
now. He keeps records, carves his own decoys, paints them. He is, and again, that's why I'm so infatuated with that part of the world. Again, because the nostalgia of duck hunting for me has always been Southern. And the first time I got exposed to it up there, I was like, wow, this is cool. Cause it is a little different there. It's, maybe it's more gentlemanly up there. It's pretty cutthroat around here.
Yeah, man, that might be. Yeah,
I don't know if that's the best way to describe it or not,
yeah,
but
those men back in the day, they were captains of industry,
right.
and they were part of those clubs, and they would go and stay at those hunting clubs for weeks on end.
Right.
And I think it was kind of the upper crust of society got to do that.
And when you go up there and look at it, it's almost like, we've stayed up there at what they call the Trout Club or whatever when we've been up there in business with Chris. And it's like taking a step back in time.
Mm-hmm. I love it.
I do
It's
too. It's
Very,
cool.
very enjoyable.
It is
Very
cool.
nostalgic.
I've got some old decoys that my mom used to give my dad a old wooden decoy for every birthday.
Oh, that's a great
And,
idea.
I really know nothing about him. I bet he would be the one to ask.
Yeah, he'd probably tell you what kind of paint it was, who made it, when,
Yeah.
what they're
And they may be
just used
valuable.
for. Yeah.
So last couple of years ago, when we went to I went with Mr. Bill and we filmed an episode about
Up there in
canvasbacks.
Chesapeake Bay.
Yeah. So there was a waterfowl museum.
Mm-hmm.
And we toured it, and it was one of the big influences were the waterfowl carvers, and there were these two guys who were barbers, and they were brothers, and they carved all these decoys, and they're worth lots of money right now.
Wow.
Like $30,000 or $40,000 if you can find one. And every now and then somebody will have one in their basement or their attic, and
Find it.
and pull it out, and it'll sell it at a yard sale for $5, and it's worth $50,000.
Right.
That happens. But anyway, I texted Chris while I was there. Do you know? And he was like, "Oh yeah," and he knew
Of
all
course.
about it.
Yeah, he's got
he
the
probably
history.
even had some of them. So.
That's cool.
Well,
Fun stuff.
so look, why don't we take a break and pay some bills, and when we come back, let's get Spence Halford on
Up
the
there in
phone.
Arkansas.
Yeah, and find
Arkansas.
out more closer to where we are, what's going on with the ducks.
When I first bought this farm a short time ago, every single field was grown up with brush 8 and 10 feet high. But it went from that to this. And even though I planted biologic with very little moisture in the ground, I was really amazed at the results. I just sat in this field with my wife as she shot her very first deer. We could not be happier. We made a memory that will last a lifetime, all because of the effectiveness of the best food plot seed on the market. Biologic is better seed, pure and simple. Log on to plantbiologic.com to learn more.
Hello.
Hello.
How are y'all?
Hello, Spence. This is Bobby Cole, and I got Lanny Wallace
What
and
up,
Dudley,
Spence?
Dudley here, and Jason's back there in the producer booth somewhere.
Hello.
So, look, Spence, we're just so excited. We appreciate you jumping on here. Let me tell everybody who you are.
Spence.
Does he need an introduction?
I wouldn't think.
You're the man.
So Spence Halford is. Hang on, Spence. Let me introduce you now.
He's really good at this, Spence.
He is the man behind Rolling Thunder game calls
Mm-hmm.
and the cut down call and all those cool videos you see of the hunting in the public land over in Arkansas.
Burning them up.
He is an unbelievable duck hunter
He is.
and a duck caller and a duck call manufacturer. And but what he isn't is a fisherman.
You took him fishing, didn't you?
I did, yeah. So, but we'll get into that one.
True.
It's true.
Fishing season's when you have to
put your marriage back together if you get to duck hunt as much as I do. So
I remember
you can't be good at everything.
No, you can't.
You got to pick your battles, that's for sure.
That's all right. So, Spence, we wanted to have you on. We appreciate you taking time because we know it's
Yeah,
almost duck season, and we knew we needed to go ahead and get you. But we just wanted to
We're talking ducks today.
Yeah, talk a little ducks, find out what's going on in Arkansas and that part of the world. And
We just talked to Chris up in the Lake Erie region, and he says he is having a
Okay,
pretty phenomenal year. Lots of ducks.
good. You know, it's we've had some great hunt and we've had some terrible hunt. What I've seen so far is that water's pretty in short supply, and if you got some water and decent habitat, then you got ducks. But after 3 really, really wet winters, you know, and good fall and winter flooding the last 3 seasons, we're working on a pretty good dry stretch right now. And I mean, in the Dakotas and through the upper Midwest, there's a lot of dry stuff. And of course, I don't know what it's like in West Point today, but in Wichita, Kansas, it's 55 degrees right now, so it's not exactly cold either. But there's definitely a lot of ducks. They're just lazy, you know, when it gets weather like that and there's not a ton of water around. So, I think a lot of us had a lot of ducks early because there were a couple just humdinger fronts there mid to late October. And so we got a lot of ducks sooner than I think most folks normally get them. But what I'm hearing from kind of the up and what I'm seeing is with all these warm temps, a lot of the ducks are kind of bumped back up. And there's a lot of grain in the Dakotas, southern Canada that hadn't been eaten. And so, you know, they're equal opportunity eaters, and they're going to find where the easiest, most comfortable place to eat is.
so we need some.
But it's going to get better.
Well, this is sounding good to me because they're all in the Midwest. There's not enough water.
They're still sitting in Canada.
They're
not
still
getting
sitting
shot
in
at.
Canada. Yeah. So
Well, we need some cold weather.
we just
then.
need some cold weather. That's right.
We definitely need some cold weather. We had it, man, when we went to North Dakota in the middle of October, it didn't get above 12 degrees for 5 days.
Woo!
And,
Man,
I mean, weeks after we got home, you know, the balmy summertime temps returned and everything thawed back out. But we'll get it. You know, it this time of year, duck hunters always have something to complain about. And
right.
it's like they all start believing in global warming, like we're never going to have a winter. And then about February, everybody's like, man,
Froze.
it'd be nice to have those November temperatures again.
Yeah.
You know?
We've actually had
So-
pretty cool the last few weeks here. Surprisingly,
Really?
for
The
us.
mornings.
Yeah, the mornings have been cold. It snowed the last day of November here. Excuse me, I'm saying
Wow.
snow, and Bobby's
Yeah.
looking at me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean when it snows in Mississippi. We saw a snowflake. Okay,
Yeah,
One.
Lanny is a
yeah.
snowflake.
I was looking at a cedar tree and something white went by, and I was like, "Man, it's a blizzard. Y'all get your stuff."
I saw some snow in Tennessee, but it was on one of those Lifetime movies my wife was watching the other
Yeah.
night.
So here we're running the heater on the way to work, and we're running the air conditioner on the way to lunch.
Gotta
Oh,
love
boy.
it.
Oh.
Gotta love it.
Yeah.
That is life in the deep south right there.
That's exactly right.
Frost on the window in the morning and got to have a T-shirt in the afternoon.
So, Spence, let me ask you this. So, the way I found out about you, and I was just so impressed with what you're doing as a person. I love those videos that you've done when you tell the stories about taking your son hunting
Sure.
and what it means to you. I mean, it's just so well produced, well done. And we're just
Thank you.
so proud to be associated with you. But that your style of hunting there in that public ground in Arkansas, it's been changed, hasn't it? I mean, hasn't Arkansas
A lot.
Yeah, what's going
Yeah.
on there?
Well, there's a lot of things that are going on. And so it's, you know, I mean, that's kind of what you're asking me is sort of a global answer. And I'll probably get it wrong. Somebody listening will probably have a different opinion, but there's a bunch of things that are going on. And one of them one of the things that's kind of been in the water for the last, say, 5 to 10 years is there's a growing concern or uprise from a lot of the local folks about crowding in the woods, in the public hunting woods. And so there's been, a lot of public outcry about too many people and we need to blah, blah, blah. And that has most recently manifested itself in some limitations on non-resident hunters on the state-owned wildlife management areas. And so in years past, you can buy an out-of-state hunting license, in all season, and duck season lasts 60 days in Arkansas, or has for the maybe the last 20 or so years. I guess longer than that. I'm going to date myself, but you were allowed to hunt on the wildlife management areas any day you wanted to. That season was open as a resident or a non-resident. And so the first thing they did was they started saying, instead of being able to buy a season-long permit for any wildlife management area, you could only buy a permit in 5-day increments. And for the first season that they did that, or 2 seasons they did that, they allowed you to buy up to 12 permits. Actually, I guess you could buy as many as you wanted. You could buy a different permit every day. But what they did was they made those permits specific to wildlife management areas. So if you were going to hunt, Dave Donaldson, you had to buy Dave Donaldson permit. If you were going to hunt, the Black Swamp or Biomeda, you had to buy a permit specific to that place. And that gave them the ability to kind of track when people from out of state were hunting and what WMAs they were accessing the most. And, of course, there's a lot of different ways to spin the numbers. And I'm not sure that they learned anything that was not something they already anecdotally knew, because it's not hard to figure out where the most crowded hunting places are in Arkansas. And historically, the better places always have more people, right?
Yeah.
So from there, they changed it from an unlimited number of 5-day passes to only 6, and they were specific. So you could hunt a total of 30 days on the WMAs, but you could only hunt, you could only acquire 6 permits in 5-day increments. And then from there, what they did last season, and again this season, is they picked 3 10-day windows where non-residents can hunt on the WMA. But they only during the first 10 days. There's 10 days in the middle of the season, and there's 10 days at the end of the season. And you still have to buy a permit specific to the WMA. And that really changed things, because for a guy like me, I can access most places in Arkansas in about 2 hours from my house. The farthest place is maybe 2.5 hours. And so I'm able to hunt a lot of days and hunt for a couple hours like you guys do, and then go to work.
Yeah.
Because work for me is about halfway between my house and where I like to hunt. And so I probably would hunt 30 to 40 days in the public woods, but I wouldn't hunt them in 10-day stretches, because it's nice to sleep in your own bed, and you try to pick the days where the weather's good.
Right.
You got a wind that you like, and we bounce around. We're really nomadic based on where water levels are. And, at certain river levels, certain places are better than others. And so it's been a pretty gigantic adjustment for us in terms of just how, I say us, like, me and some of my immediate friends from Tennessee, because we can't really just kind of go wherever we want, whenever we want, like we have in the past. And then I guess the other major factor that's going on in Arkansas is 3 or 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago now, the Game and Fish Commission started a real intensive look into damage to their trees. And green timber reservoirs, what they call them, GTRs,
yeah,
are essentially man-made impoundments right, with live oak timber inside of them that they flood. And for years and years and years and years, they started putting water on those things mid-October. October 15th was the historical date that all the farmers had agreed with the Corps of Engineers, the Game and Fish, that water could start being retained after October 15th. And here a couple of years ago, they felt like they were doing too much damage to the trees, and so they bumped that back. And now the date is November the 15th. And so, the difference between putting the boards in and catching water on a whole bunch of these managed areas between October 15th and November 15th is significant in terms of huntable access, huntable water. Because, typically season opens about November the 18th or 20th, somewhere right in there. 3 days of flooding versus 35 days of flooding. That's a big difference.
Sure is.
So those two things right there, those are probably the biggest two changes that have happened in Arkansas in the last 5 years. Anyways, I don't know if that's exactly what you were asking, but there's a pretty detailed answer.
Yeah, I'm glad you told me all that because I was not aware. Yeah.
Well, I didn't realize I was opening up that can of worms.
There's some serious stuff going up there. Yeah.
I mean, you've really got to do your homework if you're planning to travel there to hunt.
Yeah. Because I used to go when I was in college, and I would go to a grocery store and get a permit to hunt the White River Refuge. And I mean, I went to the grocery store to get it.
So
it didn't matter if you were resident, non-resident, whatever.
And that could have been the Friday night. Y'all could have decided to.
No, that's when we decided.
Yeah.
That is when we would decide to go. And this was in the
and the
late '90s.
The federal refuges will still allow you to hunt as much as you want. They're definitely, they have not adopted the same window of date that the state has. But the difference is there's almost no artificial water that gets held on the federal refuges. So the refuge ground, like the White River Refuge, the Cache River Refuge, all that ground is great hunting, but only when the rivers swell out and flood.
Right.
And so the WMAs, the state land, as it says in the name, those are supposed to be managed areas, right? So they almost all of them have significant ways of artificially controlling the water and creating habitat. But Dudley's right. You got to do your homework. I mean, that's the name of the game. We have a phrase that we preach. Our mantra is, what kills ducks is diesel fuel and unleaded gas. It's not duck calls and shotguns and
being in the right spot. That's right.
That's right. It's doing your homework.
I mean, Bobby can attest to that with his duck calling skills. I mean, he knows he's got to be in the right spot.
Yeah, that's right. I'm a shooter. I'm not a caller.
I guess, you have to manage your expectations too. You're going to run into other hunters. You're going to have other hunters set up really near you. And if you let that ruin your day every time you go, then you just got to be willing to expect that's going to happen.
Well, I tell you what, it's an adventure, and I tell you, hunting that public land up there is some of my best memories are running around in that stuff. So it's worth doing. But to your point, everybody do your homework.
It is. My daddy always said that adventures are really good for a young man's development. And so I wholeheartedly embrace that. I agree with that. And I am who I am today because of the wild hares that I chased, and still chase them.
We all are, yeah.
But you're right. It is an adventure, and Dudley's right. You got to manage your expectations. And frankly, some of the best friends, to this day, some of my closest, bestest friends in the world are people that I was foot racing or bumping up into, frankly, I knew Brooks Tinsley from a distance, but that's how we got to really be good buddies. Was
racing each other to the duck hole.
Yeah, their boat broke down, and they rolled out and decided they were going to march to the same spot I was going to march to. Brooks lost, but only by about 3 feet.
Hey, look, he's hardcore now.
Yeah, he is.
I'll tell you that thing. What you said about your dad and adventure. My dad said it's not an adventure till something goes wrong. To your point, Dudley.
That's right. That's right.
Stuff goes wrong with you all the time.
My whole life's an adventure. I mean, that's the bottom line.
Yeah, that's how you learn how to change spare tires, and
that's right.
Fix things is when you have to. So.
Well, Spence, we appreciate you being on here. And before we let you go,
Sure.
is there one tip that you could give us?
Ooh, put him on the spot.
For a
Sounds
guy
like a
blowing
gas
up.
card, diesel fuel, and unleaded.
Well, no. So
For a guy.
let's just say a guy's got a Rolling Thunder cut down call.
Mm-hmm.
Is there one tip that Spence could give them for like, are you calling at their butts or just kind of give your best tip here? So. Not to
put
you on the spot. Yeah, no, we wouldn't do that.
Okay. That's okay. That's okay. I'll give you a 3 for 1. How about that?
That's what I'm talking about.
The best tip I could give somebody about their duck call is they need to practice. And that sounds really simple, but when you were in high school and you played basketball or football or whatever sport it was, you practiced every day. And when you got home, you practiced. I played basketball was my sport, and we practiced a couple hours after school, and then you go home, you shoot free throws at home, and you just practice constantly. And then it's like all of a sudden we become an adult, we want to pick up a hobby, and we want to go do that hobby, but we don't actually practice at the fundamentals of that hobby anymore. And blowing a duck call is just like shooting a basketball. It's muscle memory, and so being able to blow a duck call well that's a real asset to being able to call them in, close and get a good, clean, ethical shot. So I would say number one tip would be practice a lot. From there, I would say just be, nature and the outdoors has a way of teaching us if we're willing to learn. And so listen, pay attention. When you're close to ducks that are on the water, just notice the sounds that they make. Notice when they call, when ducks are flying overhead, and try to learn and observe, even if it's not from live ducks, try to learn what works and what doesn't work and adapt, and don't get stuck in a rut thinking that just because you heard something somebody did on YouTube or social media that you got to do that one thing in order to work. You got to learn and adapt, and if you're willing to be open-minded and not stuck in the mud about it, you'll learn. You'll learn the hard way.
That's right.
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense.
Practice and then learn. But my third one is going to be, because I think everybody needs to be reminded of this, myself included, but when you bump into other hunters in the woods, just be polite. We're all on the same team. And if you start mad, it's pretty hard to come back from that, because you're going to end up saying something that's going to insult somebody or make them mad, and then you're, everything escalates from there. Versus if you're just polite and courteous, it's amazing, how much more enjoyable the day goes if everybody can just get along. And I say that because I really believe a lot of the rules and regulations that are changing right now are because people have not done a good job of getting along with each other. If we were all getting along, there wouldn't be a need for a bunch of rules and stuff being jockeyed around. So be kind to your other hunters as you meet them.
There you go.
I'd say number 3 is probably more important than the first 2.
Yeah. Especially
it
on public
is.
ground.
I agree. For sure.
Thanks for sharing that.
Well, Spence,
no problem.
Once again, you've outdone yourself. Whenever we're around you at the SHOT Show and stuff, you're always fascinating to listen to, and we appreciate what you do as a representative of the duck hunting world.
Yeah, I hope you can get down and hunt with us again this year too. We're looking. Hopefully, we'll have a few.
All right, I would love to. Just let me know. It's an honor to fly the Mossy Oak flag, Mr. Bobby. So
I appreciate that.
Compliment goes both ways.
Well, and another thing, we want to get you down here and let's give some. I'll help you. We'll do some duck calling lessons.
Okay, I'll trade you some open face bait casting reel.
There you go for duck hunting lessons.
Duck calling lessons. So,
Yeah, well, that sounds good.
Perfect.
That's great.
All right. Well, Spence, I'm going to tell everybody, tell me if I'm wrong now, but they can, there's Rolling Thunder has an Instagram page.
Yep.
Is there something else?
you can find us on all the places, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. We've even got a podcast too. We're not on the TikTok thing. That's about the only place you can't find us
The
right
old
now.
TikTok.
Yeah, we're not either. We're avoiding that one. So
We just watch TikTok. We don't participate.
Lanny watches TikToks.
Just from what Vandy sends me. Only stuff he sends.
All right, Spence. Well, you be careful, and good luck the rest of this duck season, and don't be a stranger.
Appreciate you, Spence.
Thank you. Good to talk
Thanks,
to you guys.
Spence.
All right,
See you,
buddy.
man.
See
All
ya.
right, we'll see you.
All right. See you.
Hey folks, it's Jeff Foxworthy. When I was a kid, my dad bought back the farm that he had grown up on, and I absolutely loved that place. I knew every square inch of it. It truly was my favorite place on earth. And when you're looking to find a favorite place for you and your family, Mossy Oak Properties can help. Visit mossyoakproperties.com to begin your search today.
All right, everybody. Well, boy, that was great talking to Spence.
Yeah, I love talking to Spence.
The first time I knew of Spence, I also met him, was at a trade show. I think it was the NWTF show.
Probably so.
And, you hear, even though it's turkeys, you hear duck calls all around you. And there was one booth that was louder and actually better sounding than anybody, but louder by far. And that's his booth. And they make an awesome call, and boy, does it carry. To the point of me wanting to put something in my ears after about 30 minutes.
Oh, that's good stuff. But yeah, I think his calls are. He kind of cut his teeth on this. It's called a cut down call. And I really don't know what that means, but I think you've got to really know what you're doing to blow it right.
Takes a lot more air, that's
Yeah.
for sure. But they work unbelievably well. Is the bottom line. So
Well,
so
Lanny,
over timber style of a call.
I'll give you credit. You can run a duck call
Well,
I'll
thank
give
you,
you
Bobby. I
credit.
appreciate that. I've been calling for you for years.
for years.
Yeah.
And sometimes we're
Let me tell you what, and Bobby, let me tell you what. You can shoot a duck. Let me tell you what now. This man right here.
When you're hunting with Lanny though, you never have to say, boy, I wish he would call.
Yeah, that's right.
Because he's gonna be calling the whole time.
Yeah, when Spitz came down here, he's like, I have never heard somebody blow a whistle the whole time we were duck hunting. They might sneak in on you.
You never know.
You never know. So I do love it. And I love it. I don't know why I'm calling so much because I'm cold and I got to keep moving, but I'm kind of fidgety anyway. So.
Are you a single read or a double read?
It just depends on the call, honestly, just how it sounds. I like a trashy sounding call is the best way to put
Mm-hmm.
it. I like my duck calls a little on the trashy side.
Well, look, let's keep moving on. We've had a segment that we called "Did You Know?" We've done it a few times. We haven't done it lately, but so I've done a little research on this one, and I'd like to start this one with if we could. So,
Are we trumpeting on the Did You Know again?
no, I don't think we are.
Okay, good.
All right, look, you waking Jason up all that. He's trying to know it all. So on the Did You Know today, I was going to talk about, we talked with Chris about banding.
Banding ducks.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the most fascinating stories is this guy named Jack Miner, who back in the early 1900s started banding ducks. And he did it so the Did You Know part of it, the whole banding process started as a way for him to be a missionary and to spread the gospel to the Native Americans that lived in Canada that couldn't read. So he started putting Bible verses on he started catching wild ducks and geese and putting Bible verses on them and then sending them off in hopes that someone would, kill the duck or the goose. And then because they couldn't read English, they would take it to somebody.
Yeah, that would read the verse for
He would
him?
read the verse to them and explain it to them. So that was his way of spreading the gospel. It's a really fascinating
Holy
story.
moly. You know what? I did not know that.
Is that well? So there's so much. We've done a couple of television shows
Yeah.
on Jack Miner and his bird sanctuary. It's in Canada, and it's some fascinating stuff. And there, if you'll Google it, you can find all kind of old films that were made. He was big buddies with Henry Ford and some other champions of industry back in the day, captains of industry. And the way it started is he made a fortune in the brick business. And so digging all these pits to mine the clay to make bricks, he left just a lot of potholes.
Yeah.
And then he started, after he kind of made his fortune, he started thinking, well, what could I do to give back? And he started turning those potholes into waterfowl sanctuaries.
Refuges.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And then that led him then to start banding birds and with the Bible verses. And then he became more and more successful at that. And then the Fish and Wildlife Service looked at what he was doing and how he was doing it to model the banding operation they have today. It's pretty fascinating.
That is
stuff.
hugely fascinating. That's next level.
Yeah, I would. Anybody that's listening that is interested, they could. And people that have.
Have you ever seen a Jack Miner band that had the Bible verse on it?
Yeah. I killed one. The way I've learned about this, I killed one on the Tom Bigby River. My friend Paige Todd and I were hunting together, and on the Tom Bigby River. And this was about 2000, and I killed a Jack Miner band. And
Paige was calling for you.
Paige was calling for me. But it turns out there's a little pocket of birds over here on the eastern side of the Tom Bigby River, down around the Aliceville area. There's some Jack Miner birds that are banded in Ottawa. Well, it's not Ottawa, but it's in Canada, and they end up down here. But they end up all over, and so they're really prized by collectors. The Jack Miner bands.
Yeah, I'm looking at one right now. It's got Leviticus 26:12 on it.
What is that?
I'll walk among you.
Oh.
Yeah, and God is our refuge is a real popular one as well. So
Cast all your care upon God. 1 Peter 5:7. Man, I'm gonna have to duck hunt a little more. I need one of these things.
So I'm telling you, so if you, so the Bible, the one that I've got, I ended up giving it to my wife, and she wears it on a necklace around her neck.
Oh.
Good move, bro.
Yeah. So, but you ought to Google Jack Miner and read about it.
That is exactly what I'm doing right now.
Yeah. It really is. So there's your Did You Know? And I hope you guys.
So that Jack Miner band you killed had a Bible verse on it?
It did.
And you killed it on the Tom Bigby?
On the Tom Bigby River.
I'm going to hunt there for the rest of my life now.
Yeah.
I'm going to get more.
Yeah. So where Chris is up in Ohio.
So they're still doing this.
Bay.
Yeah.
Yeah. His sons, I think he's got one son. And then there's a Jack Miner Foundation up there. And they still do it more as education. They'll bring in school kids and show them how the whole process works. But, David McElwain and Richie, and they all went up there and filmed a show.
Yeah, I need to watch that one. Apparently, I wasn't paying too much attention.
Really, really good stuff. So I actually brought a Jack Miner band. This one's got a Bible verse on it. That is an authentic Jack Miner band.
So I bet
where did this come from?
Well, the lady that runs the refuge, she was kind enough to send me that one.
Well, I'll tell you what.
So I've got two, one that I killed and one that she gave me.
I can realize how bad my eyes are getting now. Wow, look at this.
Yeah, you really kind of, it's almost like they,
that is really cool.
So would
really
they be able to go to Mossy Oak Go and watch that Jack Miner episode? Certainly.
There's something on there.
yeah, so you would think. You would think.
You'd think so. We're gonna get we'll go on this website. We're gonna get this video thing figured out one day too.
Yeah. Google Jack Miner, Miner, guys. It's worth the read.
Yeah, it is.
All right. So
story.
what about the Ask Dudley
We got
questions?
any questions today?
Yeah, we got a question.
All right.
It's another interesting one. It's kind of got a twist.
Oof.
So
Well, let's hear it.
Once in a generation, a mind comes along, a mind that understands more than the average person, and is more than willing to share his knowledge. From trees to food plots to fertilizer, Dudley Phelps knows so much that he has forgotten more than he remembers. And now he gives you the chance to ask the burning questions in your mind. It's time for Ask Dudley.
Mr. Dudley, I live in Florida. However, my hunting property is in Pennsylvania. The distance makes proper maintenance of the property difficult at times. I'd like to improve some of the cover by adding switchgrass. From what I've read, there's a fair amount of maintenance that is involved in establishing switchgrass plots. Is switchgrass a plant that I would be able to start from seed in pots in Florida and then transplant to Pennsylvania to cut down on the establishment phase of that new cover? Thank you.
That's an interesting.
That is a next level
is.
question.
Yeah.
What was his name? Did it say his name?
Justin.
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 Yeah, good question.
That is a good question.
Scott Kirsch.
Justin's probably next week.
All right, Scott. Good question, Scott.
Well, Scott, the answer is yes. And you can get switchgrass seed. There's different varieties. The variety we carry is called Alamo, and it works well in a wide range of climates and soil types. But yeah, you can scatter some seed in a pot, late this winter. Some of it is going to need stratification, but most of it is not. So you just sprinkle a couple of seeds in every pot. I would recommend, ordering some kind of plug tray that's similar in size to what we, our root balls on our trees are like.
That's about the size of a coffee cup.
Yeah. And you can grow them, and it's amazing how easy they are to grow. But if you do fail, you can get plugs from us at nativenurseries.com. But just put them in pots, sprinkle a little on the soil surface really late in the winter, maybe in February. Let a little freeze thaw action, stratify them so they'll all sprout.
What does you mean by stratify?
Stratification, there's stratification and scarification. Stratification is like it needs a winter to trigger it to sprout. Switchgrass seeds only need about a month below about 50 degrees Fahrenheit.
That's why we store our acorns in the cooler.
Yep. And it triggers them to sprout, although some of them will sprout anyway. About 25% of them wouldn't sprout until next year if you don't stratify them. So put some slow release fertilizer in there, maybe a half a tablespoon in each pot. And that fall, you can drive them up to Pennsylvania and plant them, maybe in early October, and they'll root in. They're very hardy. They can handle not getting rain. They'll just go dormant. And then the next spring, late in the spring, they will start sprouting. About the same time folks are planting corn, when the soil temps get around 50, 55, they start leafing out again. So what I'd recommend doing is a bunch of weed control the summer and fall before. Spray some glyphosate, kill all those grasses and weeds, and then plant them in the fall. Let them overwinter, and before things warms up, you can spray and kill all your cool season grasses and weeds again, and it will release your switchgrass.
Thank you, Mr. Know-It-All.
And you'll have a good stand. And there's all different kinds of, herbicides and maintenance things you can use. Give me a call and we can go over your specific conditions and make sure you're successful.
I have to tell you, I've planted, some native grasses by seed, and the plugs are the way to go, bro. So compliment this guy on having that, putting that kind of thought process into it.
With seed, it's a 2 or 3 year process, and you have to be willing to wait.
And if he's growing in Florida and transplant and taking them up to Pennsylvania, he's probably get his switchgrass looking pretty good before he even transplants it up there, couldn't he?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So it'd be pretty vigorous growing down there.
Oh, it'll make a seed head and look like a 3-year-old plant in the first year.
Right.
When you go by seed, it's a 3-year process.
Yeah.
And usually the first year you think that you didn't have any germination at all and you're disappointed. And then you go back the second year, you find a few plants, lots more maintenance and management. And then usually year 3, you're successful. With plugs, you're successful year 1.
And I think some of the varieties in these native grasses, it can be 90 days before they germinate, can it? Or even longer than that. I mean, because we're so used to these food plot seeds as gamekeepers, throwing them out there and boom, it turns green. Man, I had a magnifying glass around there looking. Yeah,
they'll sprout pretty quickly. I think they say 3 to 15 days on switch.
Yeah.
But you're literally on your hands and knees looking for
them. Yeah.
And it's tiny the first year.
Right.
So, plugs are the way to go. You might have to space them out a little bit more. Your budget and all of that good stuff comes into play. But if you want instant gratification, Plugs are the way to go.
Plugs the way to go.
Good question.
Well, good. I think you answered his question, and let's make sure he's going to get a levy sling. One of those really cool
awesome.
outdoors. Yeah,
Nice. Sweet.
yeah. So get his information. Let's make sure we send him one for sending that question in. It was kind of like tying the pork chop around Dudley to get the dogs to play with it. You know, we kind of bait everybody in with give them something.
We'll
So
give
they'll
you
ask
something.
a
Just
question.
ask us a question.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
All right. Did you learn anything today,
well,
Bobby?
yeah.
I learned something.
Yeah. I did learn something today.
What'd you learn?
Yeah. Arkansas is very complicated when it comes to a non-resident duck hunter.
Yeah, and lots of new rules out there.
Well, either you can be willing to do your homework and go hunt them dead,
Yeah.
or stick around in your own state.
Yeah.
I'd love to know more about their thought process, because, you know, there's been a few times I've been over to Biomeda and seen the Green Tree reservoirs, and I would to think that they're not doing some of that anymore, it's kind of disheartening.
I know our local refuge, Noxubee, and I've read those studies he was talking about where the trees are dying off. All the little acorn red oaks, pin oak, willow oak, they're slowly dying off because they're keeping the water on them too long. And it's converting all to overcup oak, which is a much less desirable acorn for waterfowl.
100%.
And so that's what's going on. Our local refuge is just alternating. So maybe they'll flood one of the big 3 GTRs a year.
Yeah.
And let those other 2 sit idle. Some states are, just flooding for a shorter duration every year.
Right.
But yeah, you can't flood. You can't flood.
They're not aquatic plants. That's what you're telling us, Dudley.
You can't flood a red oak for 5 months out of the year every year and expect them
now,
to
you
live.
can't handle that for 1 year, I'm assuming.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're bottomland species.
Well, and when you say year, you're really just talking about a few months.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think if you keep them underwater for, several months, several years in a row, where the problem is where if it's 1 year where it's underwater and then it's got a year to maybe recoup and everything else, then it can handle it again. It's successional, season to season that's causing the issues.
So what did you learn?
I learned about Jack Miner.
Yeah, you did.
I mean, I consider myself kind of a duck person, and I didn't know that the whole duck banding thing started out from a spiritual outreach place. It's pretty cool because I mean, I'm not much of an emotional person, as you quite know, but man, there's something about duck hunting that just pulls at every core of my body.
So when I read all this, this was many years ago when I found out about it, but it turns out he handcrafted this first aluminum band.
Yeah.
And his first
Like if they're
verse
hand stamped.
was First Peter. So he put First PET as
5-7.
abbreviation. So the person that killed that goose wrote him back and said, "I'm sorry that I killed your first pet." So that led him to elaborate a little more information on the band.
Box 46, Kingsville, Ontario. He careth for you 1 PET 5-7.
Yep, that's it.
Wow.
It's a really neat story.
Yeah, that's a neat
It
story.
sure is. All right.
We learned some more about ducks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and probably.
And Dudley already knows everything, so he probably didn't learn anything.
Well, I enjoyed some of the stuff that Chris was talking about the history and all of that.
We need to go hunting with Chris.
Yeah, it's ducky up there.
Yeah.
It really is.
It sure is. All right, guys. Well, are there any things around here we need to give website information about? Before we close?
Everything's kind of, food plot. We're still shipping trees. It's primarily to the south, isn't that right, Dudley?
Yeah, it's starting to freeze up in the north.
So we're going to be preparing for spring food plot season and spring tree planting season pretty soon.
But in the meantime, the rut is right here on top of us.
The rut is right here, too. And you can, hit Gamekeeper Butchery up if you want to, too. Check out what we got going. We got some new packages there. So trying to make it easier for people to shop.
Gamekeeper Meats.
That's
it. All right, Jason, did you learn anything?
I was fascinated about the Jack Miner stuff too.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Well, good.
Makes me feel like better as a waterfowler.
Excellent.
Excellent.
All right. Well, listen, thank y'all for listening. We're actually getting some comments back on the podcast that guys are enjoying listening. And
I love seeing the long-tailed cat comments.
Yeah.
Yeah, a guy sent in a video of a house cat. It said, show this to Mr. Wallace. It's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
Who is Mr. Wallace?
Yeah, who is Mr. Wallace? I don't even know him anyways.
All right. Well, thank y'all. We appreciate all the comments from the 2 or 3 listeners that we've got. And we hope that y'all will
Keep
continue
on
to
commenting.
listen. All right. Y'all take care. Thank y'all.
Thanks,
Get us out of here, Cleve.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Gamekeeper Podcast. And be sure to tune in again. Subscribe to Gamekeeper Farming for Wildlife magazine. And don't miss the Mossy Oak Properties Fistful of Dirt podcast with my good buddy, Ronnie Cuz Strickland.